The film begins with Under the Moonlight of the Connecticut River in Massachusetts. 3 lifeless bodies rise to the surface, with no identification. Meanwhile, in Boston, experienced homicide detective Thomas Craven waits at the airport for the arrival of his 24-year-old daughter, Emma. A widower and single father, Thomas is happy to see her again, but his joy is short-lived. Emma becomes ill, vomiting and bleeding from the nose, and asks to be taken to the hospital. As they leave the house, a masked man appears and calls out the last name, Craven, before shooting, killing Emma. Thomas holds his daughter in his arms as she dies, not knowing if the target was him or his daughter. Consumed by grief and a thirst for answers, Thomas decides to conduct his own investigation, refusing to step aside. While searching through Emma's belongings, he finds her cell phone, which receives a mysterious call, but on the other end there is only silence. He also discovers a pistol registered to David Burnham, Emma's boyfriend. When confronted, Thomas discovers that David and Emma work together at Northmoor, a research and development company. David, fearing for his own life, doesn't reveal much, but suggests that Emma was in danger. Thomas also finds a Geiger counter, which indicates that Emma's hair is contaminated with radiation, raising serious suspicions about the company. As Thomas searches for answers, Darius Jedbug, a British consultant involved in cover-ups, appears. Darius insinuates that Emma participated in an attempt to expose Northmoor's illegal activities, the manufacture of nuclear weapons intended for use as dirty bombs with foreign materials, creating a false connection to other countries. He claims that Emma was with a group that tried to obtain evidence, but only she escaped with her life. Although Darius claims that Emma was a terrorist, Thomas refuses to believe him, convinced that his daughter was fighting for justice. This point is interesting because it changes the perspective of the case, from a personal vendetta to a fight against a much larger scheme. What would he do at this point? I wouldn't blindly accept Darius's words. Instead, I would try to find more evidence to understand Emma's true intentions. The investigation makes it clear that the company wants to silence anyone who threatens to expose their plans. An interesting fact is that the film is an adaptation of the 1985 British miniseries, directed by the same filmmaker Martin Campbell, also known for Casino Royale. This version modernizes the story, but preserves the suspenseful tone and emotional depth. Do you think Thomas acted correctly in conducting the investigation alone, or should he have sought more support from the police? Leave your opinion here, but continue with the film. Meanwhile, Thomas continues to have flashes of Emma's past, usually cute memories from when she was a child. The next day, he decides to settle the score with David, Emma's boyfriend, who soon lets it be known. Emma was an activist who would beat up a hornet's nest. She reported Northmoor's illegal activities to the government and even sent a basic letter to Senator Jim Pine. And no, she was not contaminated by radiation while doing her research. Thomas returns David's revolver. But guess what? The next day, David is found dead with a gunshot to the head. Meanwhile, an unexpected friendship blossoms between Thomas and Darius. This guy is like that detective friend that every hero needs. Darius thinks that Emma's friends stuck their noses where they shouldn't, and that's why she was poisoned with radiation. Thomas then goes after Mr. Sanderman, Northmoor's lawyer. But the guy says, "I don't know anything. I didn't see anything. I'm not saying anything, star." Frustrated, Thomas turns to Melissa, Emma's activist friend. She reveals that Jack, the boss of Northmoor, suspected Emma and that she thought she was being poisoned. When Melissa is about to tell more, she is run over. Thomas, with impressive reflexes, shoots the driver of the car, who ends up diving into the river. Melissa survives but loses a leg. Before the accident, she gave Thomas an envelope. Inside, a CD with a video bomb. Emma denouncing that Northmoor was illegally manufacturing nuclear weapons. Now things get serious. Thomas discovers that Emma was killed on Jack's own orders to cover up the scheme. With a Geiger counter, he confirms that the milk in Emma's refrigerator was radioactive. Seriously? Who puts radiation in milk? I honestly would have stopped for a coffee before opening that one refrigerator, because this was already starting to look like a trap. Thomas, furious, faces Senator Jim Pine, laying all the truths on the table and demanding a real investigation. Later, at home, he receives a visit from his police officer friend Bill, who, well, was on the wrong side of history. Northmore agents invade the house, knock Bill out, and kidnap Thomas. He wakes up trapped on a stretcher inside Northmore and, with that look, manages to escape. But he starts to feel sick, vomiting, and realizing that he has been poisoned by radiation. Look, if I were him, I would have worn gloves and a mask since the first contact with Northmore. We reach the climax. Thomas, sick, breaks into Jack's house. With a plan, he forces a henchman to denounce Jack as the mastermind behind the crime. In a shootout, both are shot. But Thomas has a touch of macabre irony. He forces Jack to drink radioactive milk, and when Jack tries to take the antidote, Thomas sends him away to a better place. While Thomas is dying in the hospital, Darius, who also has his days numbered, decides that he will not play on the wrong side. He gives a game over to the senator and his cronies, but spares a rookie cop when he discovers that he has children. Darius dies but comes out a hero. Thomas, in his last breaths, receives a spiritual visit from Emma, who whispers something comforting to him, and they walk together towards the light. This film marks the return of Mel Gibson as the protagonist after almost a decade away from leading roles. And look, he comes back with that classic tough guy with a soft heart style that we love. Now, if you were in Thomas's place, what would you do differently to escape the Northmore trap? Let's talk here in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to give me some support. Now I leave this video for you to watch. I hope to see you there.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect.